Sony's A7S series cameras are famous for their low-light performance and video capabilities, but it's been 5 long years since we've seen a new model. The mirrorless landscape has changed radically in that time, with numerous video-centric cameras launching from rivals and Sony itself. With all that in the background, the 12-megapixel $3,500 A7S III launched recently with a lot of fanfare. It packed a formidable list of video-centric features, including the incredible high ISO performance that past models are known for. Without giving anything away, I've had a lot of fun using it in Paris and the Loire Valley, so stay tuned to see what I found out. The A7S III has a body that's nearly identical to the A7R IV, which is a good thing. At 699 grams, it's shockingly light considering all the features packed inside. It also feels natural to hold and use thanks to the nicely contoured grip and assortment of logical manual controls. Those include shooting control dials for shutter and aperture, a joystick, control wheel, mode dial, exposure compensation dial, and multiple buttons. My only complaint, and it's a small one, is that I'd like the mode dial to have a push-to-lock button so you don't have to awkwardly hold the button while turning the dial. Sony has finally fixed its awful menu system and now uses cascading folders like Panasonic's latest cameras. Those make it much easier to find settings and remember exactly where you are, though a few of them, like log mode, are still a bit difficult to find. On top of that, the main and quick menus can be fully operated using the 3-inch touchscreen. With all of Sony's previous cameras, you could only use the display to set touch focus and not much else. It also fully articulates, which is truly a must these days for a video-centric camera. It's now feasible to use this camera for vlogging or solo shooting. Sony manufactures the OLED electronic viewfinders used in most cameras, so it's not shocking that the A7S III is the first to get its new 9.44 million dot EVF. It offers a huge 63% increase in resolution over the A7R IV, though frankly, I didn't notice much difference in sharpness. Another first for Sony are the dual card slots. They not only support dual UHS-2 SD cards, but 2 of Sony's new fast but tiny CF Express Type A cards. For most types of shooting, you can stick to cheaper SD, but you'll need CF Express in certain situations. More on that shortly. The battery is the same one found in the A7R IV, and I found I could shoot video for at least a couple of hours on a charge. Plus, it can handle up to 600 photos according to SIPA's standards. Overall, you don't have to worry much about the battery dying. Finally, it has all the ports you need on a video-centric camera, including USB-C for charging and data transfers, along with microphone and headphone ports. If you need more than 2 channels of audio, you can use Sony's hot shoe mounted audio adapter. Topping off the good news, it has a full-sized HDMI port that's far less likely to cause problems if you use an external recorder. It performs as well as it handles. Sony's autofocus system gets better on every model, so it's not a surprise that the A7S III has the best AF system of any mirrorless camera available today by far. With only 12 megapixels to process, the autofocus is fast and responsive. For photos, it stays locked on no matter how fast your subject moves, giving you sharp shots for sports, wildlife, or lively parties. It works equally well in dim and bright light, putting every other camera to shame in that regard. Sony's subject tracking, along with the face and eye detection, already led the industry, and the A7S III takes it up another notch. It follows your subjects, whether they're human or animal, with otherworldly speed and accuracy. That translates to sharp portraits or candid street shots nearly every time. The A7S III can shoot at up to 10 frames per second with continuous autofocus, or 20 frames per second with a silent electronic shutter. What that spec doesn't tell you is how great the mechanical shutter feels and sounds. Another feature that makes blurry shots less likely is the in-body stabilization. Sony claims 5.5 stops of shake reduction, which is less than rivals like the Canon R6 and Panasonic S5. Given the much higher ISO range and lower noise levels, however, it's more than sufficient. That takes us to this camera's forte, video. First of all, you should be aware that unlike Canon's recent cameras, the Sony A7S III can let you shoot for a nearly unlimited period of time without any fear of overheating. And when it comes to features, everything that I ever complained about past Sony mirrorless cameras has been addressed. You can shoot 4K at up to 120 frames per second, more than any other hybrid mirrorless camera, giving you some crazy creative options. What's more, it supports 10-bit capture in all 4K modes. Combined with Sony's log and HLG settings, it delivers high dynamic range video perfect for HDR or post-production work. Just be mindful that 120 frame per second 4K video at maximum quality requires a fast and costly CF Express card. The A7S III doesn't capture 8K or even 6K like Canon's EOS R5 or the BMPC 6K, but those features are largely gimmicky. And while it doesn't downsample 4K as much as Sony's older A7 III, 4K video is still sharp as hell. Canon's colors might be a bit warmer and more human, but Sony's hues are arguably more accurate. That makes it easier to adjust your images in post-production, especially with the very high dynamic range. The in-body stabilization is highly effective for video, especially combined with the electronic stabilization, which does add a small crop. As usual, it can't replace a gimbal, but it's highly effective for static shooting or smooth panning. Video autofocus now beats Canon's vaunted dual pixel AF thanks to the speed and AI smarts. It accurately tracks subjects and the face and eye detection is uncanny, though not completely infallible. Sony also gives you full control over the AF speed and smoothness when changing focus between subjects. The A7S III is now the best vlogging camera on the market, period, thanks to the flip-out screen, mic input, stabilization, high-quality video, and eye autofocus. It's also light enough to carry around for long stretches. Its superpower, however, is low-light shooting. Much like with smartphones, this is stupidly useful in so many situations. I was able to shoot these videos in the pitch of night under overcast skies with no moon or even stars and still get usable shots with manageable noise. That will let budding cineasts shoot indoors and in other circumstances using practical or natural light, making for a cinema verite look that you can't replicate with other cameras. For photos, don't be too quick to poo-poo the 12 megapixel sensor. Sure, that limits how much you can blow up shots, but the A7S III's prodigious low light and fast autofocus powers make it better for everything else. For what I shoot, largely product and street photos, the speed and low light capabilities outweigh the lack of resolution. As with video, low-light photography is unmatched, letting you capture shots with very manageable noise at borderline ridiculous ISO levels. Shooting at ISO 16,000 in a dim-lit train station, I could pull detail out of shadows with minimal noise. JPEGs look natural with just the right amount of sharpening, while RAW photos let you dial down blown-out highlights or crank up shadows. High-resolution photos have their place for photography, but the A7S III is more versatile and, dare I say it, more fun to use. In the end, I can't find many faults with this camera. Sony has addressed nearly every complaint I've ever had about previous A7 series cameras, but it didn't just stop there. It also improved autofocus and other features that I already liked to keep the A7S III far ahead of rivals. Its limitations are down to the high $3,500 price tag and low-resolution sensor, which rules out the A7S III for landscapes and other types of high-detail photography. If you need that, get Sony's similarly priced A7R IV with a category-leading 61-megapixel sensor. If budget is an issue and you need an all-around hybrid camera, check out the Canon R6, Panasonic S6, or Sony's own A7 III, all between $2,000 and $2,500. However, if you're into video or low-light photography and have the budget, I'd highly recommend the A7S III. Feature for feature, it's simply the best camera I've ever tried. Thanks for watching, and please click on like and subscribe to help us get the word out to more viewers. For more on cameras and other tech, check out Engadget.com.